Marcus Reed stood in the overgrown greenhouse of his recently inherited Victorian mansion, watching moonlight filter through the clouded glass panels above. The sweet scent of forgotten herbs mingled with the musty smell of decay. His Aunt Cordelia had always been eccentric, but her final letter suggested something far stranger than her usual botanical experiments. When the moonflowers bloom, follow their glow. The words seemed nonsensical when he first read them 3 days ago. Now, as he watched the rare night-blooming flowers his aunt had cultivated pulse with an otherworldly blue luminescence, he wasn't so sure. The grandfather clock in the main house struck midnight, its deep resonance reaching even here among the withered plants. Marcus adjusted his flashlight, following the trail of ghostly blooms. They formed a perfect circle around a weathered stone pedestal that had always been empty during his childhood visits. "What were you hiding, Aunt Cordelia?" he muttered, running his fingers along the pedestal's worn surface. His touch triggered something, a faint click followed by a mechanical whir. The stone floor beneath his feet began to slide apart, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Marcus hesitated only briefly before starting down the steps. The air grew cooler as he descended, and a soft humming reached his ears, not mechanical, but more like crystals singing in the wind. The staircase opened into a circular chamber that took his breath away. Crystalline formations covered the walls, pulsing with the same ethereal blue light as the moonflowers above. But it was the structure in the center that drew his attention, a transparent pod that seemed to be grown rather than built, its surface flowing like liquid glass. And inside, suspended in what looked like luminescent mist, was a woman. At least she appeared female in form, but her skin had a subtle iridescence that no human could possess. Her hair floated around her face like starlight given substance. Marcus approached the pod cautiously, his heart pounding. This had to be some kind of elaborate art installation or preservation chamber. There was no way his aunt had been hiding an actual. The being's eyes snapped open. They were entirely silver with no pupils or iris, yet somehow conveyed a depth of awareness that made Marcus stumble backward. A voice echoed in his mind, gentle but distinct. "Please don't be afraid." "I'm hallucinating," Marcus said aloud. "Too many hours renovating, not enough sleep." "You are perfectly sane, Marcus Reed. I am Naira, and your Aunt Cordelia was my guardian." The pod's surface began to ripple, and Marcus watched in astonishment as it dissolved like morning dew, leaving Naira floating gently to the ground. She wore what appeared to be a bodysuit made of the same flowing crystal as the pod, and her movements were unnaturally graceful as she steadied herself. "My aunt never mentioned having a guest." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady, though that does explain why she never let anyone near the greenhouse. Naira smiled and tiny points of light danced across her skin. "She protected me well. Few humans knew of my presence here. It was safer that way." "Safer from what?" Marcus asked, though he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to know the answer. "The Sentinel Corps," Naira's mental voice carried an edge of concern. "They believe they maintain peace in the galaxy, but their methods have grown extreme. Your aunt helped hide me when they began purging what they called anomalous beings from populated worlds." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what he was hearing. So my aunt, the eccentric botanist who talked to her plants, was actually harboring a fugitive alien. She was far more than a botanist. Naira moved to one of the crystal formations on the wall, touching it lightly. Images flickered within star charts, complex equations, and symbols Marcus didn't recognize. Cordelia was part of a network of humans who understood that Earth was not as isolated as most believe. They worked in secret to protect your world from forces beyond your current understanding. "And now," Marcus asked, already suspecting the answer. "Now you have inherited her role, whether you wish it or not." Naira turned to face him, her silver eyes somehow both alien and compassionate. "The chamber's activation will have sent ripples through the quantum field. The Sentinel Core will investigate." A deep thrumming sound filled the chamber, making the crystals resonate. Naira's expression became urgent. "They're scanning for unusual energy signatures. We need to move." "Wait," Marcus held up his hands. "You can't just drop all this on me and expect me to." "I understand this is overwhelming," Naira interrupted, "but we have minutes at most. The Sentinels are not known for their gentle methods of investigation. Your aunt spent years preparing for this moment. Trust that she believed you were ready." The thrumming grew stronger, and the crystal's blue glow began to pulse rapidly. Marcus thought of his aunt's last letter, of the careful way she had taught him about the moonflowers and their unusual properties. How many other lessons had she given him without him realizing their true purpose? "What do we need to do?" he asked. Naira's relief was palpable. "First, we secure the greenhouse. Your aunt left protocols in place, but they need to be activated. Then we need to understand exactly what she was protecting because I suspect it was more than just me." The crystal chamber suddenly darkened, and a new sound cut through the humming, something like massive wings beating against the night sky. Marcus looked up the spiral staircase to see shadows moving across the greenhouse glass above. "I'm guessing that's not the local wildlife," he said. "Sentinel Scout drones," Naira confirmed. "They're earlier than I expected." "Marcus, are you certain about this? Once we begin, there's no going back to your normal life." Marcus thought about his aunt's greenhouse, about the way she would spend hours tending to her mysterious plants while teaching him about the stars. How her eyes would twinkle when she told him that some secrets were worth protecting, no matter the cost. "I think my normal life ended the moment I opened that letter," he said. "Besides, I always knew Aunt Cordelia was hiding something interesting. I just didn't expect it to be quite this interesting." Naira's smile lit up the darkness. "She said you would say that. Come, we have much to do and very little time to do it." As they hurried up the stairs, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what other secrets his aunt's greenhouse might be hiding. Whatever they were, he had a feeling his life was about to become far more complicated than he'd ever imagined. The greenhouse glass shattered overhead as Marcus and Naira dove behind a row of enormous purple-leafed plants. Sentinel drones buzzed through the broken panels, their metallic bodies reflecting moonlight like liquid mercury. "Still think I'm making the right choice," Marcus whispered, brushing glass shards from his jacket. Naira's skin rippled with patterns of starlight as she concentrated. "The drones are scanning for my quantum signature, but your aunt's plants, they're not just decorative." She touched one of the purple leaves, and suddenly all the plants in the greenhouse began to pulse with bioluminescent light. The drone's scanning beams scattered, creating a dazzling light show that would have been beautiful if they weren't running for their lives. Aunt Cordelia's quantum reactive hybridization experiments, Marcus realized. She always said plants could do more than just photosynthesize. She was brilliant. Naira's mental voice carried admiration. "The entire greenhouse is a biological quantum computer, each plant species engineered to serve a specific function." A drone swooped close to their hiding spot, and Marcus noticed something odd about its movement. "They're not attacking, they're looking for something specific." "Not something, someone." Naira's silver eyes narrowed. "Lieutenant Dax, show yourself. I know you're monitoring through the drones." The air at the far end of the greenhouse shimmered, and a tall figure materialized. The Sentinel officer wore armor that seemed to flow like quicksilver, his helmet retracting to reveal features that were almost human, except for the metallic sheen of his skin and eyes that glowed like heated copper. "Specimen N937, Lieutenant Dax's voice was smooth but carried no warmth. "Your unauthorized awakening has triggered multiple protocols. Return to stasis immediately." "She's not a specimen," Marcus stepped forward, surprising himself with his own boldness. "And this is private property. You have no jurisdiction here." Dax's metallic lips curved in what might have been amusement. "Your aunt's protection status expired with her death, Marcus Reed. The arrangements she made with the Corps are no longer valid." "He's lying." Naira's mental voice was sharp. Cordelia's agreements were binding across generations. She made sure of that. "They're earlier than expected." Lyra's form pulsed with urgency. "The quantum jumps led them straight to us." "Not necessarily," Naomi said, typing rapidly at her console. "I've been studying quantum entanglement shielding. It's theoretical, but with your core's power." She looked at the crystalline being. "We might be able to hide you in plain sight." The lab shook as the ships landed nearby. Marcus peered at the security feeds. "Whatever we're doing, we need to do it fast. Those aren't regular Sentinel troops down there." "Quantum hunters," Lyra confirmed grimly. "They've sent their elite. They must know what I carry." Naomi connected the quantum core to her equipment. "This will either mask your quantum signature completely or—" Marcus asked, "or create a cascade reaction that could vaporize half the mountain. The math is solid, but we've never tested it at this scale." Lyra placed her crystalline hand over Naomi's. "Do it. I trust Evelyn's judgment in choosing you as she chose Marcus." The air itself seemed to vibrate as Naomi activated the device. Lyra's form flickered, then stabilized, her glow dimming to almost human levels. On the monitors, the Sentinel ship's scanning beams swept harmlessly past. "It's working," Naomi breathed. "Your quantum signature is perfectly out of phase with their detection methods." Heavy footsteps echoed from above. The hunters were searching the surface facilities. Marcus helped Naomi disconnect the core as Lyra explained their next move. "There's a transmission I've been tracking," she said. "A signal that matches the frequency of my people's most sacred knowledge. Someone is trying to access information that could shift the balance of power across galaxies." "The signal that drew me here," Naomi realized. "I've been detecting quantum echoes for weeks but couldn't locate the source." "Because it's not coming from this dimension," Lyra said. "The Sentinels aren't just hunting me, they're searching for a way to break through to where that knowledge is hidden. If they succeed." A massive explosion rocked the bunker. The hunters were getting closer. "We need to move," Marcus said, checking the quantum core stability. "Dr. Wells, you should come with us. They'll question anyone they find here." Naomi looked around her lab, her life's work. But the mysteries before her were bigger than any research she'd ever dreamed of pursuing. "I'll need 5 minutes to grab essential data and wipe the systems." As she worked, Lyra shared more about the signal they were tracking. "It's like an echo of creation itself, encoded with the fundamental laws that shape reality. In the wrong hands, it could be used to rewrite those laws." "And the Sentinels want this power?" Naomi asked, downloading her research onto secure drives. "Some have forgotten their purpose as guardians." Lyra's tone held ancient sorrow. "They believe they should control the evolution of all species, not simply protect the boundaries between them." The bunker shook again. Through the security feeds, they watched humanoid figures in liquid metal armor methodically destroying everything in their path. "Ready," Naomi announced, clutching her drives and essential equipment. Lyra gathered them close. "This jump will be longer. The next safe house is in the Atacama Desert." Evelyn believed the signal's source might be hidden there. "Why there?" Marcus asked as Lyra's form began to pulse with translocation energy. "Because some secrets," she said, "are best hidden in the most ancient places on Earth." The lab dissolved around them just as the hunters breached the main door. Their quantum-shielded forms arrived in the desert night, under stars that seemed to pulse with newfound significance. Naomi oriented herself quickly, professional curiosity overriding her disorientation. "If we can correlate the signal's quantum harmonics with local geological formations." "First we need shelter," Marcus interrupted, pointing to lights on the horizon. "More ships incoming." "They're adapting to our quantum signature faster than expected." Lyra's human disguise flickered with concern. "We need to find the source of that signal before they do." As they hurried toward a nearby ridge, Naomi studied her new companions, the nephew carrying on his aunt's mysterious legacy, and the crystalline being who held secrets that could reshape reality. Whatever they were about to discover in this desert, she knew her understanding of the universe would never be the same. Behind them, more Sentinel ships descended from the stars, their lights cutting through the darkness like searching fingers. The race to unlock the signal's mysteries had begun, and the fate of multiple worlds hung in the balance. The Atacama's pre-dawn air was frigid as Raven Cross watched the strange trio through her enhanced optical implants. After 15 years as a Sentinel agent, she'd learned to spot the unusual, and these three were definitely that. Especially the woman whose quantum signature kept shifting like a mirage. "Target confirmed," her comm unit chirped. "Eliminate witnesses and retrieve the entity." Raven muted the channel. Something wasn't right about this mission. The Sentinel Corps she'd joined was supposed to protect, not hunt, and Evelyn Delaney's involvement made her even more suspicious. She'd worked with the scientist years ago before the Corps started changing. Making her decision, Raven emerged from her hiding spot, hands raised. "Don't quantum jump," she called out. "It'll just lead the others right to you." Marcus spun around, shielding Lyra, while Dr. Wells raised some kind of scanning device. Lyra, however, simply tilted her head. "You're different from the others," she said. "Your quantum resonance shows conflict." "I'm Raven Cross, Sentinel Core." She slowly removed her liquid metal armor's control node, letting it power down. "And I think we're all being played." Before anyone could respond, the desert lit up with energy beams as 3 hunter ships descended. "Time to choose sides," Marcus said tersely. "Already have." Raven tossed him a small device. "Quantum dampener, it'll buy us some time. There's a cavern system ahead with natural interference properties." They ran as shots carved glowing paths through the darkness. Raven's augmented muscles kept pace easily, her mind racing through implications. The core leadership is obsessed with some kind of ancient protocol, she explained between breaths. They think your friend here is the key to accessing it. The signal, Naomi gasped as they reached the cavern entrance. It's not just a transmission, is it? It's a test, Lyra said, her crystalline form illuminating the cave as they ventured deeper. My people left markers throughout the galaxies, ways to identify civilizations ready for greater knowledge. The cavern opened into a vast chamber filled with crystalline formations that looked suspiciously artificial. Raven's implants detected complex energy patterns flowing through them. Evelyn found this place, Marcus realized, pulling out his aunt's quantum core. That's why she built her observatory where she did. It's another node in the network. Naomi was already setting up scanning equipment. These formations are in perfect quantum resonance with each other. They're like relay points. For what? Raven asked, keeping watch at the chamber entrance. Lyra touched one of the crystals, sending pulses of light through the entire network. For this, the air itself seemed to crystallize, forming into a three-dimensional star map unlike anything Raven had ever seen. It's beautiful, Marcus breathed. It's a test, Lyra corrected. My people believe that any species worthy of advanced knowledge must first demonstrate they understand its responsibility. The Sentinel core leadership failed that test when they chose to take by force what must be freely given. Distant explosions echoed through the caverns. The hunters were getting closer. These coordinates, Naomi pointed to pulsing points in the map. They match quantum anomalies I've been tracking for years. They're all connected. Evelyn was mapping them, Marcus added. She knew they formed some kind of pattern. A key, Raven said suddenly, not to some weapon or tech but to understanding itself. Her augmented vision picked up subtle patterns in the data. That's why the core leadership went rogue. They don't want understanding, they want control. Lyra nodded. The protocol isn't about power, it's about wisdom, about knowing when not to use the knowledge you possess. More explosions closer now. Raven checked her weapons. Great philosophical discussion, but we need a plan. We complete the test, Lyra said simply. Show that humanity is ready for the next step in its evolution, but to do that, she turned to Marcus. We need to understand why your aunt chose you. Before he could respond, the chamber's entrance exploded. Through the dust stepped Commander Voss, the core most feared hunter, his liquid metal armor morphing into weapon configurations. The protocol ends here, he announced. Surrender the entity and the core. Yes, Naira's mental voice was heavy with revelation. And they foresaw this crisis, the gradual breakdown of dimensional barriers. They left behind tools, knowledge, ways to repair the damage, but the Sentinel core in their rigid pursuit of order. They've been making it worse, Marcus finished, trying to contain the rifts instead of healing them. A holographic display sprouted from a nearby vine, showing a map of temporal disturbances spreading across the galaxy like cracks in glass. Earth's position was clearly marked, sitting at a crucial intersection of quantum ley lines. Your aunt understood what was at stake, Naira touched the hologram, adding her own knowledge to its display. She knew the core would never accept a solution that came from outside their control, so she created this place where the knowledge could be preserved and evolved. Marcus watched new rifts forming on the map, spreading outward from various core containment sites. How long do we have? Without intervention, months perhaps. The barriers between dimensions are failing faster than anyone predicted. Soon, reality itself will begin to unravel. Then we need to find the architect's solution before that happens. Marcus studied the quantum flora around them. Each plant species contains different information. Together, they form a complete picture. He moved to a patch of shimmering ferns, their fronds dancing with equations. These show stellar calculations, coordinates. Another cluster, this time of iridescent roses. These hold biological data, genetic codes. And these, Naira indicated a spiral of ghostly white flowers, contain the quantum frequencies needed to communicate with the architect's machines. But accessing all this information, translating it into something we can use. Will take time we don't have, a familiar voice finished. They turned to see Lieutenant Dax standing in a different corner of the greenhouse than where he'd vanished. His armor was scratched and dented, showing signs of battles they hadn't witnessed. How long were you gone? Marcus asked. 3 years subjective time. Dax's voice had lost its authoritarian edge. "I've seen what happens if we don't fix this. Entire solar systems collapsed into temporal chaos. Planets aging millions of years in minutes, species evolving and dying in the blink of an eye. And now you understand why the core containment protocols won't work," Naira projected. Dax nodded grimly. "The rifts aren't a violation of natural law, they're a symptom of something breaking down at a fundamental level. The architects knew this would happen eventually. They built repair systems into the fabric of reality itself. And my aunt found a way to access those systems through quantum-engineered plants," Marcus said. "But why keep it secret? Why not share the knowledge?" "Because the core would have tried to weaponize it," Dax answered. "Trust me, I've seen that future too, it doesn't end well." A new temporal disturbance rippled through the greenhouse, smaller than before but still potent enough to make reality flicker. When it passed, several plants had rearranged themselves, forming new patterns of light and information. "The network is evolving," Naira observed, "adapting to the increasing instability, but it needs something more a key to unlock its full potential." Marcus remembered his aunt's last words in her letter. "When the moonflowers bloom, follow their glow." He looked up at the transformed greenhouse ceiling, where the original moonflowers now floated like stars. "Not just a key," he said. "A sequence. The moonflowers aren't just power sources, they're navigation points. We need to activate them in the right order to access the complete database." Dax checked readings on his armor display. "Whatever you're going to do, do it fast. My temporal sensors show 3 major rifts converging on this location within the next hour." 3 rifts at once could tear the whole region apart," Marcus said. Or Naira's mental voice held a note of desperate inspiration. "Their combined energy could power the activation sequence, if we can channel it correctly. Using temporal rifts to power alien technology hidden in quantum plants." Marcus couldn't help but smile. Aunt Cordelia would have loved this. Above them, the moonflowers began to pulse in complex patterns, as if responding to an unheard symphony. The entire greenhouse thrummed with potential energy, waiting to be unleashed. "I hope you know what you're doing," Dax said. Marcus shared a look with Naira, feeling their mental connection grow stronger. "No," he admitted, "but sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from taking impossible chances." Around them, reality held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The convergence was beautiful in its terrifying intensity. 3 temporal rifts spiraled toward the greenhouse like cosmic serpents, their otherworldly energy setting the sky ablaze. Inside, Marcus, Naira, and Lieutenant Dax worked frantically to prepare the quantum network for what was coming. "The Astronomers Guild," Dax said as he helped Marcus align the moonflowers. "That's what they called themselves. Your aunt wasn't just a member, she was their last keeper." "You knew about them all along." Marcus carefully adjusted a crystalline stem that pulsed with stored data. "The core has been tracking them for centuries, a secret society of humans who understood too much about the universe. We thought they were dangerous." Dax's metallic features showed regret. "We were wrong." "They were guardians," Naira added, her thoughts tinged with memories. "While the core tried to control reality's changes, the guild worked to understand them, to find ways to heal the growing damage." A hidden panel opened in the greenhouse wall, revealing a shelf of old leather-bound journals. Marcus recognized his aunt's handwriting, but these weren't her usual botanical notes. These pages contained star charts, quantum equations, and detailed observations of temporal phenomena. "December 15, 1983, he read aloud. "First contact with the quantum entity later known as Naira. The rifts are spreading faster than predicted. The core containment protocols are accelerating the deterioration. We need a new approach." "Your aunt found me drifting through the quantum foam between dimensions," Naira explained. "My people, the Lumini, naturally exist in multiple quantum states. We can perceive the damage to reality's fabric. And the core saw you as a threat," Marcus understood now, "because you proved their methods were wrong." The first waves of temporal energy from the approaching rifts hit the greenhouse. The quantum plants rippled in response, their network lighting up like a constellation brought down to Earth. Through their mental link, Marcus felt Naira's growing concern. "The convergence is happening faster than expected. We need to complete the activation sequence." Dax checked his armor's readings. Multiple core vessels entering the atmosphere, they've detected the power surge. "Let them come," Marcus said, turning to another journal entry. "Look at this," Aunt Cordelia left instructions. The page showed a complex diagram of the greenhouse's layout, with the moonflowers marked as nodes in an intricate pattern. Overlaid on the drawing were musical notes forming a haunting melody. It's not just a sequence, he realized, it's a symphony. Of course, Naira's mental voice held wonder. The architects built their machines to respond to harmonic patterns, the fundamental frequencies of reality itself. Your aunt was a genius, Dax admitted. She hid the activation key in plain sight, knowing only someone who understood both the science and the art would recognize it. Marcus traced the musical notation with his finger. She used to play this on the piano, called it her moonlight meditation. I learned it by heart without ever knowing what it really was. The rifts were visible through the greenhouse's energy walls now, their swirling vortexes distorting space and time. Plants caught in their influence bloomed and withered in seconds, only to bloom again. We need to start now, Naira urged. The convergence point is almost here. Marcus closed his eyes, remembering the melody his aunt had taught him. Through his connection with Naira, he felt the quantum network respond, each note corresponding to a specific moonflower's frequency. The music flowed through him, both remembered and created anew. Each phrase activated different parts of the network, building a complex quantum harmony. The greenhouse filled with light and sound as decades of his aunt's work came to fruition. Core ships entering visual range, Dax reported, 2 minutes to intercept. They're too late, Marcus said, playing the final sequence. It's already begun. The moonflowers erupted with brilliant light, each one a star in a constellation of knowledge. The quantum network surged with power, forming connections between plants, people, and the very fabric of reality. Through it all, Marcus felt his aunt's presence not as a ghost, but as an echo in the quantum field. She had prepared for this moment, laid the groundwork for what needed to be done. Now it was up to them to complete her work. The rifts touched the greenhouse's quantum barrier, and everything changed. Time and space bent around the greenhouse as 3 temporal rifts collided with the quantum barrier. Instead of destruction, there was transformation. The energy was caught in the moonflower's harmonic web, channeled through the living network Cordelia had spent her life creating. Marcus stood at the heart of it all, Naira's consciousness intertwined with his own as they guided the power flow. Through their shared perception, they could see the quantum structure of reality itself and the damage that needed to be healed. The core ships are holding position, Dax reported, his armor interfacing with the transformed greenhouse. They've never seen readings like this. The architect's repair systems are activating, Naira's thoughts rang with triumph. Your aunt's network is connecting with quantum nodes across the galaxy. Marcus watched in awe as the greenhouse's quantum field expanded, reaching out through the rifts to touch other worlds, other times. He saw ancient machines stirring to life, responding to the harmonic patterns in his aunt's musical key. It's not just repairing the damage, he realized. It's teaching us how to prevent it from happening again. Through the quantum network, knowledge flowed like light. The architect's legacy, preserved and evolved through his aunt's brilliant fusion of biology and physics, was revealing itself at last. Dax's armor suddenly pulsed with incoming transmissions. The Core Council is ordering an immediate cessation of all temporal containment procedures. They've finally realized that fighting the universe's natural evolution only makes things worse, Marcus finished. The Astronomers Guild understood that, so did the Lumini. And now others will understand too, Naira added. The knowledge cannot be contained or controlled, only shared and grown, like your aunt's garden. The temporal rifts were changing, their chaotic energy smoothing into flowing streams of quantum potential. The damage wasn't being undone, it was being transformed into something new, something necessary for reality's continued evolution. Your aunt left one more message, Dax said quietly, holding out a final journal. She wrote it the day she helped me escape the core, though I didn't understand its significance then. Marcus took the journal with trembling hands and read. To my dearest nephew, if you're reading this, the convergence has begun. The garden's secret is now yours to share. Remember that growth requires both roots and wings. Some must stay to tend the garden, while others must carry its seeds to distant stars. Trust your heart to know which path is yours. All my love, Aunt Cordelius. Marcus looked at Naira, feeling the depth of their connection through the quantum field. There's more work to be done, isn't there? More worlds that need this knowledge. Yes, she answered. The architect's network spans the galaxy, What we've awakened here is only the beginning. The core will protect this facility, Dax promised. We've learned our lesson about trying to control forces we don't fully understand. This place will become a center of learning, not containment. Through the greenhouse's transformed walls, they could see the stars shining with new clarity. The quantum network had stabilized the local spacetime fabric, but in the distance, other rifts still needed healing. Aunt Cordelia knew I wouldn't be content just tending one garden, Marcus said softly, no matter how extraordinary it is. Then let us carry her wisdom to the stars. Naira held out her hand, her form shimmering with quantum potential. There are other gardens waiting to bloom. Marcus took her hand, feeling the universe expand with possibilities. The greenhouse would remain as his aunt had intended, a nexus of knowledge and growth, protected by those who finally understood its importance. But his path lay beyond Earth now, among the quantum corridors between worlds. Lieutenant, he said to Dax, take care of her garden, we'll be back to check on it. Where will you go first? Dax asked. Marcus smiled, thinking of all the journals he had yet to read, all the knowledge waiting to be discovered. Wherever the moonflowers point us. Hand in hand with Naira, he stepped into the quantum stream. Above them, the stars sang with his aunt's melody, lighting the way to new horizons. The greenhouse shimmered in their wake, a beacon of life and light in the endless cosmic dance. In the end, Marcus realized, his aunt had given him far more than a house and a garden. She had given him a universe of possibilities and the wisdom to know what to do with them. The adventure was just beginning.